Lil Durk is in a whirlwind of trouble because if what is alleged is actually proved, he's got to be one of the dumbest people on earth. Or the government is just being brazenly stupid to the point where they want to make sure everything that he said and he's done basically ruins it.
This is the story of how a Grammy-winning rapper's own music became the centerpiece of a federal murder-for-hire case, and why his lawyers are now fighting to keep those lyrics out of court entirely. Durk Devontae Banks, professionally known as Lil Durk, has been sitting in federal custody since October 24, 2024, facing charges that could result in a mandatory minimum of life in prison. The government claims he orchestrated a cross-country hit on a rival rapper, and they want to use his music videos, songs, and lyrics to prove it. On January 23, 2026, his legal team filed a motion arguing that this evidence carries an extraordinary risk of unfair prejudice. But the deeper you look into this case, the more it reveals about a troubling trend in American courtrooms, where rap lyrics are treated differently than any other form of artistic expression. I'm going to walk you through everything. The background that led to these charges, what actually happened, the legal battle over using music as evidence, and what it all means for free speech in hip-hop. The backstory. Understanding this case means going back to November 6, 2020, when everything started falling apart. Outside the Monaco Hookah Lounge in Atlanta, Georgia that night, a 26-year-old rapper named Davon Daquan Bennett, known as King Von, was shot and killed following an altercation with another rapper's crew. The other rapper was Tyquan Bowman, better known as Quando Rondo, and a member of Quando's crew named Timothy Lol Tim. Leaks got arrested for King Von's death, though those charges were dismissed in August 2023. King Von wasn't just another rapper to Lil Durk, and that's what makes this whole situation so charged. Von had been signed to Durk's label, Only the Family, or OTF, back in May 2019. They were close friends and frequent collaborators, and Von had just released his album, Welcome to O'Block, in October 2020, 1 month before he died. His manager said Von had over 300 unreleased songs sitting in the vault, which tells you where his career was headed. Both of these artists came out of Chicago's drill music scene, a subgenre known for its dark, violent imagery and its roots in real street conflicts. Lil Durk is 33 years old now and has built a career most rappers only dream about, winning a Grammy in 2024 for All My Life, and accumulating 52.5 million total units across his career by March 27, 2025, which puts him in the top 50 artists of all time. 2 weeks after King Von died, Quando Rondo released a song called End of Story, where he claimed self-defense in the incident, which meant the tension between these camps was now public and immortalized in music. The alleged crime. Nearly 2 years after King Von's death, on August 19, 2022, a shooting happened at a gas station near the Beverly Center in Los Angeles. The victim killed was 24-year-old Xavier Robinson, known as Lul Pab, who was Quando Rondo's cousin, and Quando Rondo himself was the intended target, according to prosecutors, but he survived the attack. Here's an interesting detail. Lul Pab was actually scheduled for his own RICO trial just 1 week after he was killed, related to separate 2019 charges, but the government wasn't focused on that. Over 2 years after the shooting, on October 24, 2024, federal authorities arrested Lil Durk near Miami International Airport in Broward County, Florida. According to FBI agent Sarah Corcoran's testimony, he was attempting to flee the country and had booked 3 international flights to Dubai, Switzerland, and Italy. And the government claims they grabbed him before he could board a private jet to Italy. The same day he was arrested, an indictment was unsealed, charging 5 members of OTF with conspiracy to commit murder for hire. The government's theory goes like this. Lil Durk placed a bounty on Quando Rondo's life as retaliation for King Von's death. The 5 OTF members flew from Chicago to Los Angeles to carry out the hit, and a credit card linked to OTF was used to book their flights and accommodations. Prosecutors claim Kayvon Grant oversaw the operation and directed the tracking of Quando Rondo's movements. And they even presented a text message allegedly from Durk that was sent on August 18, 2022, 1 day before the shooting, that read, "Don't book no flights under no names involved with me." Additional conspiracy and gun charges came in November 2024, and in December 2024, prosecutors linked him to another murder, the 2022 Chicago killing of Stefan Mack, an alleged gang leader, which they claimed was retaliation for the death of Durk's brother. The government describes OTF not just as a record label, but as a hybrid gang operating under Banks' direction. The evidence controversy. And that's when the music became part of the case, which is where things get complicated. Prosecutors originally cited lyrics from a song called Wonderful Wayne and Jackie Boy by Babyface Ray featuring Lil Durk. And the specific lyrics they highlighted were, "Told me they got an Addy, got location, green light, go, 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 go." And "Look on the news and see your son, you screaming no, no." The government claimed these lyrics referenced the August 2022 shooting and showed Durk's involvement, presenting these lyrics to a grand jury along with music videos as what they called direct evidence that was inextricably intertwined with the charges. But Durk's defense team, led by high-profile attorney Drew Findling, found a massive problem with this theory that basically blew it apart. Wonderful Wayne and Jackie Boy was recorded 7 months before the August 2022 shooting, not after, which meant the timeline didn't work at all. The defense also discovered that prosecutors had shown the grand jury fan-made YouTube videos with edited audio, not Durk's original content, and the government hadn't identified who actually wrote the specific lyrics or when they were created. Language about ops, beefs, firearms, and violence is common throughout drill and rap music, the defense argued, calling it genre convention rather than confession. On April 18, 2025, the defense filed a motion to dismiss based on this timeline issue, and then something remarkable happened. A federal grand jury returned a new superseding indictment in May 2025 that removed all the song lyric allegations from the case, which you'd think would be the end of it. But prosecutors maintained the case could still proceed without the lyrics, and apparently they weren't done with Durk's music. On May 20th, 2025, they responded defending their original use of the lyrics, suggesting they still found them relevant, which brings us to January 23rd, 2026, the motion we're discussing today. Despite the lyrics being removed from the indictment, Lil Durk's attorneys filed a new motion, demanding that a dozen music videos, songs, and lyric excerpts be excluded from the trial entirely. Act 4. The legal argument. Drew Findling and the defense team aren't just arguing that the specific lyrics don't match the timeline, they're making a broader constitutional argument about how rap music gets treated in courtrooms. Their brief stated that the material is objectively offensive in almost every way and likely to prejudice a jury, and they argued if the song was so important, they wouldn't abandon it and replace another at each opportunity. It is as if the government sifted through the hundreds of songs of the defendants and just said, "We can make this one fit our narrative, let's use it." Findling also pointed out, Mr. Banks did not create these videos, and the government has failed to show any nexus between these manufactured video clips and Mr. Banks. To support their position, the defense called on an expert witness named Eric Nielsen, a professor at the University of Richmond and co-author of the book Rap on Trial, Race, Lyrics, and Guilt in America, published in 2019. That book won the Hugh Hefner Foundation First Amendment Award in October 2020, and Nielsen has served as an expert witness in approximately 50 cases involving rap lyrics, including the Young Thug RICO case. Nielsen's testimony focused on several key points that cut to the heart of the issue. The proposed evidence is similar type, content, and substance as a large percentage of music produced by other artists in the same genre, he argued, calling the language common, commercial, and widespread. Most damaging to the prosecution's case, he claimed that the way that prosecutors are using these lyrics is really to strip them of any artistic value, to deny them the status of art at all, and treat them as literal confessions. Prosecutors can be dangerously sloppy with rap evidence, Nielsen warned, often knowingly and intentionally misrepresenting rap music in service of obtaining a conviction. The concerning trend could pressure rappers to change what they say in their music in order to avoid being targeted by authorities, which is a chilling effect on free speech. Ed Yonka from the ACLU of Illinois weighed in as well, stating, "A criminal proceeding, whether it's about detaining someone or about their ultimate conviction, is really about something that someone has done or a specific action they take. It's not about content that they've created." Prosecutors pushed back in their May 2025 response, writing, "Defendant was charged for his murderous conduct, not his lyrics," and adding, The indictment charges that defendant directed and financed 6 hitmen to travel across the country to hunt and kill his rival. The government filed their evidence list under seal, so the public doesn't actually know the full scope of what music they still want to use at trial, and the fact that the prosecution has changed their list of musical evidence multiple times according to the defense suggests they're still searching for something that fits their narrative. Act 5. Life in custody. While this legal battle plays out, Lil Durk has been sitting in federal custody since his October 2024 arrest, which is over 14 months now as of January 2026, and his conditions have been particularly harsh. Solitary confinement became his reality for 131 days, more than 4 months, at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Los Angeles. 23 hours daily in a small cell, 1 phone call per month, no in-person visits, and no commissary access to find his existence. And the reason given was that he was allegedly caught with an Apple Watch, which is considered contraband. January 15, 2026, brought some relief when he was finally released from solitary confinement and moved to the general population. Multiple attempts to get him out on bail have all failed. His legal team proposed a $4.5 million bail package in June 2025 that included cash, 24-hour home detention, electronic monitoring, and private security. But Judge Michael Fitzgerald, who's presiding over the case, denied the request because the proffered funds are only a fraction of defendant's net worth. Every single bond request has been denied. The trial date itself has become a moving target that keeps shifting. Originally scheduled for January 7, 2025, it was pushed to October 2025, then moved to January 20, 2026, and when 3 of Durk's 5 co-defendants requested another delay to May 2026, here's what's interesting. Lil Durk objected to the postponement, which is rare friction within a defense team. Reports suggest Durk is desperate to clear his name and return home. Judge Fitzgerald granted a delay, but not as long as the co-defendants wanted, setting the current trial date for April 21, 2026, though some sources indicate it could be April 28th. A pre-trial conference is scheduled for March 30th, 2026 at 3:00 p.m. Throughout this ordeal, Durk has attempted to challenge the case on multiple fronts, filing a motion on October 6, 2024, challenging U.S. Attorney Bilal Assail's appointment, denied on December 16, 2024, and filing a motion on November 13, 2024 to dismiss or disqualify the case based on concealed death threats. Another dismissal attempt failed on January 10, 2026. Meanwhile, the evidence the prosecution is working with is massive, totaling over 30,000 pages of records and hundreds of gigabytes of digital material, including surveillance video and audio recordings. ACATE 6, The Threats and the Tension. Another disturbing element to this case reveals just how high the stakes are, and it involves death threats against court officials. 4 voicemails arrived in February 2025 for U.S. Magistrate Judge Patricia Donahue, containing explicit death threats and sounds mimicking gunfire. And then in April 2025, Assistant U.S. Attorney Ian Yaniello received 1 voicemail with similar threats. Defense attorneys claimed that prosecutors had concealed these threats and sought dismissal of the case, but Judge Fitzgerald rejected this argument, noting that the threats wouldn't justify recusal because that could incentivize defendants to make threats to get rid of judges. Security concerns extended beyond threatening phone calls. Someone took pictures of co-defendants OTF Boogie and OTF Didi inside the courtroom, which led prosecutors to urge the use of an anonymous jury, though the defendants opposed this. Tension extends beyond the courtroom as well. Lil Pop's mother, Andrea Laquila Robinson, filed a wrongful death lawsuit in February 2025 in Cook County Court naming Lil Durk, OTF, an unnamed business manager, and a related company as defendants. Her attorney, Warren Postman, stated, "The untimely death of Mr. Robinson stunned his community and his family. We have filed this suit in an attempt to make those culpable take responsibility and support his family in these difficult circumstances." Act 7. The music continues. What's remarkable about this whole situation is that Lil Durk's music career hasn't stopped, even from behind bars. His album Deep Thoughts was originally scheduled for release on October 18th, 2024, but got delayed 4 times because of his arrest. finally dropping on March 28, 2025, while he was incarcerated. Debuting at number 3 on the Billboard 200 with 64,000 album equivalent units in its first week and 85.9 million on-demand streams, the album showed his fan base hadn't abandoned him. 14 tracks from the album charted on the Hot R&B Hip-Hop Songs chart, and the lead track, Vanish Mode, debuted at number 16 with 7.9 million streams. One day before the album dropped, on March 27, 2025, the Recording Industry Association of America announced 53 new certifications for Lil Durk, bringing his career total to 52.5 million units, and placing him among the top 50 artists of all time. From jail on January 6, 2026, he posted, "Crazy how you gotta wait until it's dark out to see who really with you. Even Quando Rondo has tried to move past the conflict, at least publicly," writing in a now-deleted Instagram post from November 2024. It's time to leave all that street stuff behind. He appeared to offer forgiveness without directly naming Durk. Aceet 8. The broader implications. This case isn't happening in isolation. There's a documented pattern of rap lyrics being used as evidence in criminal trials in ways that other musical genres never experience. Eric Nielsen's book, Rap on Trial, documented this trend extensively, showing how country music has songs about murder, rock has songs about violence, but prosecutors don't typically treat those as literal confessions. With rap, there's a consistent assumption that the artist is simply narrating their actual criminal activity, which becomes even more problematic when you consider the collaborative nature of music production. Prosecutors often misattribute lyrics, Nielsen pointed out, including verses written by featured artists or collaborators, as if the defendant wrote every word, which is just sloppy police work disguised as evidence. Language in drill music, talk of ops, beefs, and violence, is so common and widespread that singling it out in one case is arbitrary, the defense argued, comparing it to prosecuting a horror novelist for writing about murder. A concerning racial dimension can't be ignored either. Rap is predominantly created by black artists, and the use of their lyrics against them in court disproportionately affects black defendants, which the ACLU statement emphasizes by pointing out that criminal proceedings should be about actions taken, not creative content produced. If Lil Durk gets convicted based partly on his music, it sets a precedent that tells every drill rapper, every artist who writes about street life, whether from personal experience or purely as artistic expression, that their words can and will be used against them, not as metaphor, not as storytelling, but as confession. Act 9. What happens next? Judge Fitzgerald has not yet ruled on the January 23rd motion to exclude the musical evidence as of today, January 26, 2026, and the trial is scheduled to begin in less than 3 months. The case is proceeding despite the removal of lyrics from the indictment itself, which suggests the prosecution believes they have sufficient evidence without the music, and yet they still want to use it at trial. Conviction on the charge of conspiracy to use interstate facilities to commit murder for hire resulting in death means Lil Durk faces a mandatory minimum of life in federal prison, and there's no parole in the federal system. Evidence against him, according to the government, includes financial records showing OTF-linked credit cards used to book travel, surveillance footage, the text message about not booking flights under connected names, and the larger pattern they claim to see in how OTF operates. But the defense maintains that this is a case built on assumption and association, not concrete proof. And Drew Findling stated, "We would have been ready to try the case in 2 weeks, but the court appropriately decided that with everybody together, we still aren't there yet. It's a complex case. These are the stepping stones towards a trial." What's fascinating is that even with over 30,000 pages of evidence and hundreds of gigabytes of material, the prosecution still feels the need to bring in music videos and lyrics, which raises the question, if their case were truly airtight, would they need the artistic expression to seal the conviction? Conclusion. Fundamental questions about art, free speech, and criminal justice sit at the heart of this case. Can a Grammy-winning artist's creative output be used to prove he committed murder for hire? Should lyrics recorded before a crime even occurred be admissible as evidence of that crime? And what does it mean for artistic freedom when a rapper has to worry that every bar they write might someday be read aloud in a courtroom by a prosecutor trying to send them to prison for life? The motion filed on January 23, 2026, argues that using Lil Durk's music carries an extraordinary risk of unfair prejudice, which is the legal language, but what it really means is this: juries are human, and when they hear violent lyrics, see music videos with guns and money, and are told this is proof of guilt, it's nearly impossible for them to separate the art from the allegation. Eric Nielsen warned that this trend pressures artists to self-censor, to change what they say in their music to avoid being targeted by authorities. And if that happens, we've created a system where one genre of music, predominantly created by black artists from disadvantaged communities, is subject to government scrutiny and potential prosecution in ways no other art form experiences. Whether Lil Durk is guilty of these charges will be decided by a jury, hopefully based on actual evidence of his actions rather than his artistic expression. But the fight to keep his music out of that courtroom is about something bigger than one man's trial. It's about whether we believe in the First Amendment protections we claim to value. It's about whether art gets to be art, or whether it becomes evidence the moment the artist comes from a certain background and writes about a certain life. Trial begins April 21st. Judge Fitzgerald will rule on the motion to exclude the music before then, and whatever happens in that Los Angeles courtroom will echo far beyond Lil Durk's case, affecting every artist who dares to tell uncomfortable truths through their music. Because at the end of the day, if we allow prosecutors to treat rap lyrics as confessions, we're not just prosecuting crimes, we're prosecuting culture itself.